Now, we mentioned the floppiness of the two-part spring, the two-part trigger before. See that? Some guys don't like it. I don't really care. Some guys will make a shim out of a Coca-Cola can or any kind of aluminum can and stick it in there to remove, you see how it kind of wobbles around in there? To remove the wobble. So you can do it. Just take a Coke can, and just fit it in between the two legs of the sear until you get a nice firm trigger. And like I said, it doesn't bother me. So that's something else you can do with these triggers to improve them up and go a little faster and a little smoother. Remember, the sum of the parts make the whole a lot smoother and more enjoyable to shoot. Now we're coming to the locking bolt. And you'll see here's the bolt. And here's the locking lug that comes up. And you can see how that fits in the recesses. And that is not going anywhere. You can see what makes this design, the 336, and its predecessor, the 36, so popular with the 30-30 and the larger caliber gun, 30-30 or the 35 Wheeling. So that goes in that way. This is the cam on the, goes in this way, bolt comes in this way, and what it does is it also puts that firing pin, the two-part firing pin, puts that firing pin lined up. That way the gun won't fire unless the bolt is in the fully closed position. And you can see how it locks in right there. So this is basically the safety on this gun. Pretty ingenious if you ask me. Now with this, there's really nothing you can do except for the bottom edge right over here where it rides over right here. See how it locks in? And what I like to do is just take a little bit again of our, we've got our paper here. I'm going to put it to the edge. A little bit of our oil, and then give it a little bit of a buffing up on that surface, that bearing surface, just so the gun runs a lot smoother. And it's a rough casting. I'll show you. Look at how rough that casting is. And this is where we were polishing right now. Just look at that. It's just rough. Look at that. Production gun. Oh yeah, it is. That's why we're doing all these little things here and there. It just kind of helps the gun operate. Now, you can buff that side also. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Comes in this way, and you can buff the back on here and in the front on here. Just don't change any of the angles, and what that'll do is just facilitate it. You see what I'm doing here, going up and down into the bolt. Just makes it nice and smooth, and that's basically what you're looking for, just a smooth ride. Next we come to the breech bolt. Right? And you can see right here the wear that we've got on it. Right back here we don't have any wear, but you can see right here, just from it riding in and out of the gun, what's happened to it. What I like to do is I'll take, again, my paper, kind of just wrap it around lightly, just give it a little bit of a buff. That's all you want to do. And we're not changing the angles of anything. We're not dishing anything out. All we're doing is making sure that we polish it all up. All right? Same thing at the front of the bolt. Nice and easy, just like that. And as you're working, if you feel something, a burr or something, well, this has got the two-piece firing pin. Theory goes that the two-piece pin requires more friction from the hammer to fire the primer, especially when the hammer spring has been reduced. Aftermarket one-piece firing pins are also available, but I don't really think that kind of defeats the purpose of the gun, and why would you want to do something like that? This gun works just fine the way it is, the way it was designed. Next thing is, you kind of want to look inside of the receiver. Take a look right in here where the bolt rides. Okay? And, you know, run your finger in there, and do you feel anything that's kind of rough? Well, yeah, you got tool marks. You can feel tool marks in there. You know, you'll feel a little bit of tool marks, and especially out here where, yeah, it's rough. They're rough. They're rough castings. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. That's why we're doing this. What you can do with that is the same thing what we did over here using our good friend Mr. 600 grit sandpaper and something that's close to the diameter of the bolt. I'll use this. I'll wrap it around here, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go inside, just like that, up and down, just along the top, because the top is what seemed like it was really rough, and along the sides here. Again, we're not changing the angle. All we're doing is smoothing. You can see we're removing a little bit of metal. Yeah, and it does make it feel really good. Now, put a little bit more oil in here. Now I've got this brush that I got over at Brownells a while back. It's a chamber bore brush, and this thing works great for this. Just put a little oil on there, wrap it around, it'll go right inside. Scrub and clean up. Alright, now we've got our lever. Now take a look at your lever. And if you've been shooting it a lot, you'll get the wear marks, and you'll see exactly where we're having our issues here. And you can see right through here, maybe a little bit over here, a little bit on the top here, and on this side. But overall, it's not that bad. The tip over here, we definitely want to make sure we can polish this up, because this is the thing that rides, this is the part that rides in our bolt. You see that? And we want to make this as smooth as we can. And we want to make the inside of this as smooth as we can also. So again, we've got our paper here, our 600 grit. We're laying it flat, and we're just going to go back and forth a little bit. Now, you don't want to do this on parts of the gun that are going to be exposed, because you don't want to remove the bluing. But for right here, you can see where we're getting a little bit of wear. That really doesn't matter if we remove the bluing or not. I'm doing it on the corner of my bench here, that way it's easier. There we go. So that's basically what we're going to do. I'm going to do this side right here, just a little bit, keep it flat. That way you keep it smooth and out of line of sight. Oh yeah, that feels really good now. That feels really good. Nice and smooth. And that's basically what you want. You know, where these parts come together and they meet metal on metal, there's nothing you can really do but smooth it out. And this would be equivalent to putting, you know, a couple thousand rounds in the gun. Remember when we pulled this guy out, you see it's a little two-piece ejector. And that spring is wiggle wobbly. Well, you got other guys out there that'll make one-piece ejectors. They claim that way they could run forever. You don't have to worry about them breaking. I could see that happening, but I've never had an ejector break on me yet. Now watch this happen in the next couple of months here where I'm shooting. But I mean, you can go ahead and, like we said, you can spend as much as you want or as little as you want, and that's the whole purpose of these videos. Now, what you want to do with this is, remember, this rides this way into your receiver, right? So what happens is, here's the bolt as it's going over. So again, we're going to polish parts of the bolt or contact right over here, so it makes it a little bit smooth. And you can see where the bluing has been worn off on it, right there. So again, that's a flat spot. We're going to use our paper. We're not changing any angles here. All we're doing is putting a little bit of buff on it. All right. Now, take your bolt. What I'm going to do is we're going to polish a little bit in here with our file. We'll take your file, and you can see right here there's a little bit of wear marks. I don't know if we can if it picks up on the camera, but there's wear marks from about here down to here where the ejector has been rubbing against it. So if we could go through here, and we're going to keep these lines straight, everything straight. All we're doing is just barely touching it, and we're going to knock down, smooth it out. It's all. It'll have a really good effect. It'll feel unbelievable. You want to make sure you go in and you clean them all out really well. Now we're going to go inside, wrap a little bit of our 600 grit in there, polish this up. This is where the lever cam runs in, just to make it a little smoother. Another thing we're going to work on here, and this is something I kind of want to, I warn you guys to tread lightly on, is you can see here on the hammer where we got a little bit of wear. Well, this is, see that high spot right there? Well, that high spot is where the hammer gets hit by the bolt to recock, like that. Some guys take off a little bit on here, and if you take too much, you ruin your hammer, and you're going to have to get a new hammer because the gun won't cock. If you polish it really lightly, I think you can have a better chance than using a file on it. So again, we got our oil, and we're just polishing it lightly here because we do not want, we're making it as slick as glass. We're not removing that much material. We're just going to make it slick. That way it rides over it so much easier. That's what you want. Just over that hump. And you can see how the bluing is being removed. Yeah, right there. So, because that hump right there is where the bolt rides over. On the carrier, this is the lifter, carrier, whatever you want to call it. This is what brings the round from the tube up, bloop, to get pushed into the chamber by the bolt. Everything that's flat, and you can see right here, we've got a little bit, I don't know if it's going to pick it up, lines going this way. Well, we're going to buff all this together. This part back here, this whole area right here, we're going to buff all these flat surfaces, keeping them flat. Do not change the angle on that. And then you can also take a little bit and hit right here where the rounds go in. And like again, use your round edge, kind of go in like this with it and buff it out. You want to keep the edges flat. Everything's square when you're doing this. I'm going to move this off the table a little bit because it's easier to work with. There. You got to smooth all these lines up. Reassembly is just like this assembly, only in reverse. So, we've got our lifter, and that'll go right in. You've got your bolt, which will slide in. Like so, and it'll tell you which way to go. See, you've got one leg thicker than the other. So, when you look down in here, one side where the bolt slides in is wider than the other. So, bolt. It's hard to do this while I'm trying to look in the mirror, or look in the viewfinder. There you go. Bolt in. Next is going to be trigger assembly, the bottom assembly. And as I am assembling, I broke out the good old CLP. I love CLP. There are actually tests on it that show that you use it enough, it becomes part of the metal. It embeds itself in the metal, which is kind of neat. Makes it easier to clean in the future then. So, nice wipe. Remember, always wipe oil on the rag. And then we'll install our plate. Front screw. And we have been keeping our screws all nice and neat here. Now you have two that are the same. They look almost the same. I believe the short one goes here. And then there's the side one right here. I think that's the long one. Oh. Now, we didn't discuss lightening your hammer spring. If you can see how this looks mighty different than any of the 92s or the Win 92s or 94s. It's kind of like a barrel shaped spring. I really don't like to mess with these. If you want to make a lighter spring, buy one. They got a bunch of really good aftermarket ones. I would just buy one and use it, but otherwise, I'm not going to mess with it. Now remember, when you put in your hammer, you've got to push the safety on the bottom here that we lightened up, and then it's easier to pull There, like so. And then you can put your now, after you get your hammer installed, remember, you're going to have to pull the spring down here, your safety latch, to move the trigger back and the hammer forward. What we're going to do is we're installing the hammer spring, and for this, slide your hammer spring over the strut and take your spring. Or this is your which is kind of neat. Was if you guys remember some of the other videos how we've taken our 92s and our 94s apart, we've always had to cock it and then capture the spring. With this, you don't have to. It's kind of neat because you see that little hole down there? Yeah, well, that goes through the strut, and with a little bit of pushing, you can put the bottom, this top piece, top one on first, and slide that right in. It's an ingenious design. Again, something that makes the 336 a really, really neat gun. Put on our buttstock and we're done. Like I've always said in all my videos, anybody can do this. This was just a simple slicking up, smoothing up of this gun. Anybody could do this. Why pay some ubermensch gunsmith hundreds of dollars and wait 6 months to a year to get your gun back when you could do this yourself? This is not a big deal. Of course, you've got to feel comfortable doing it. If you don't, if you know your limit, don't do it. Have somebody you know, a buddy of yours maybe, show you how to do it. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments below. Good shooting. Till next time.